So in the 100 Days of Songwriting, where does this fit?
This is day 76.
Yes.
And this comes from a free write that I did yesterday where I did 3 minutes of just coming up with titles, just random stuff, and this is unfiltered.
Right.
The gift, hoarding the wind, mine, hiding the ring, precious, eating my pain, eating away my pain. Buried treasure, I found a buried treasure, treasure hunt. So you're just following my train of thought here.
Yeah.
And then just free association, images, basically anything that comes to mind that, so I found a buried treasure. And I just went dirt, shovel, underground, rusty chest hidden, trampled upon, hooves, wheels, pounding, plain view, down centers. Can't read this stuff. And then, so that's another 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then another 3 minutes is called like poor man rhyming, which is where you pick a word. So I picked chest from this list.
Right.
And I just go through the alphabet and try to pick chest, best, address, fresh, guest, jest, crest, less, mess, nest, oppress, pest, quest, rest, test, vest, west, yes, zest. And this is just to get the gears turning. Just to get the gears turning.
Yeah.
And then possibly have some like interesting kind of unconscious content for the song that already rhymes.
That is, I love seeing the pieces. One of the things that I love going into, let's say, a chef, and to see all the ingredients that are laid out there. I mean, there is the meal that ends up being served, but then there are all these pieces. So have you, in the creative process, because this is part of your process, is taking it apart into its individuated pieces and begin to look at that and see how there is, rather than the daunting task of looking, oh my God, I've got to have the idea to completion of song, and breaking it down into, the phrase, everything is a cinch by the inch.
Oh, by the inch, yeah. Yes, there is a yes and no. Songwriting, I haven't figured out like the magic bullet yet. I've done 3 of these 100 days of songwriting, and it's still hard.
What if, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
What if it never gets? What if there is no magic bullet?
That's what
and
Mr.
it
Rogers
never
says.
gets, and it's always effort full, as a part, but that the reward is in the effort.
Yeah.
That's where the opportunity is.
I think that the effort will become easier, kind of like when you're driving someplace new for the first time, and like everything's just new and it feels like it's taking forever, and then like next thing you know, now that I drive this route, multiple times a week, every day, whatever, it just becomes like unconscious almost, and there's a part of the cognitive pain of like processing new information that goes away. So what I feel like is going to happen with this is, now that I'm developing some of these tools, the cognitive ability to like enter into a tool is less and less.
Yes.
So that amount is like, now I do this 10-minute exercise, at least a few times a week. I do some other writing exercises at least a few times a week that like tap into that unconsciousness. But this morning, I was sitting over in my dragonfly chair, and I was just going to sit down and try to like turn this into lyrics. And I just couldn't. And I was like, you know what? I need to just sit at the piano and start with music first this time and just see what comes. And now I've got all this like content already that's just floating around near the surface. I don't know if this is one of my masterpieces, but what I did is I took the chords. This is the chord progression. Which is the Beach Boys. What's that song? I just listened to it. Round, round, get around, I get around, get around, and dropped it down into like a lower range and just changed the feel a little bit and changed the melody. Was a time when we lived in the islands. So it's kind of like a double meaning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And that's where so it's breaking down and giving us access to the creative process.
Mm-hmm.
So in this third time of the way through, what are you learning about the craft? Is there a craft of songwriting? Is there a craft of that you're practicing?
Mm-hmm.
And learning more about yourself as a musician and learning more about yourself as a creative spirit?
I think what I'm learning is what we just talked about. Like, because there's no one way to write a song, it's a matter of like building this nest of like tools to pull from. And the closer I am to those tools, which can be literally, technical ability on the piano, chords, harmony, understanding, rhythm, but then all these like writing tools, and then practicing letting that, like letting go of the song a little bit and letting...
Yeah.
I want to get to a point where I like the distance between my conscious and unconscious mind is like very paper thin, and that I can just let this like exchange happen. So
yeah.
That's I think what I'm learning right now. And this is I read an interview with Bob Dylan who talked about this a little bit, that the writing process for him is like really just getting into the unconscious space and letting the stuff from there kind of bubble up.
Nice.
And he described it so simply. He just said like, the way he writes is just like he's talking to someone, which makes it so much simpler and so much less like pressure to sound smart or clever.
Exactly. I love that because that puts us into the footwork rather than the results.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is just talking to one person as opposed to trying to manipulate you into having a certain feeling or emotion,
right,
or thought process or think well of me,
yeah,
or of what I have, but I'm just talking to you.
Yeah. And trusting that the unconscious is this like well of paradoxes and humor and wisdom and just all of those things.
Trusting that. And I love the way that you frame this, because if we think about it as a toolbox and you're building a song and you're practicing with the different tools that there are, the components that they go in, and so you're getting good. You're getting familiar. Let's use that term.
I like that word.
You're getting familiar and you're comfortable with, a particular aspect, a tool of what you had, like you were talking about the rhymes.
Yeah.
And you're getting comfortable with rhymes. You're getting comfortable with titles. You're getting comfortable with different contents and little pieces, with chord progressions. These are all the tools, right? Mr. Non-Musician is asking if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like the way you use the word familiar instead of, like, familiar, unfamiliar instead of hard or easy.
Yeah.
Because and I've read about this in some other stuff, but hard and easy kind of implies this, like, ontological assessment
Thank you.
What something is.
Yep.
And unfamiliar and familiar, which is the fixed mindset. It's that fixed idea. And familiar, unfamiliar is a growth mindset. I can grow from unfamiliar to familiar in anything.
I become more familiar with it.
Yeah. And that's mastery. That's all
Yep.
mastery is.
It's familiarity. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I have this feeling of like, oh shit, I can't come up with anything. Oh, why don't I go to the piano? Because that's right. When I'm at the piano and I have the notebook in front of me.
Right.
This is usually when good stuff happens. But it's easier on my brain to do one thing or the other.
Yep.
And to have the notepad here and play the piano is like, there's some cognitive discomfort happening there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting more familiar with, like, oh, I know this feeling. This is the feeling of what it's like to activate that muscle.
And it's interesting because one of the things that I'm working to learn, one of the things that you're helping me to learn, is to, when I come up against that uncomfortable feeling, to have some part of myself, some part of my cognitive self say, the feeling that you are feeling is not how you are going to feel when you have done this 50 times. Although it feels like when I'm doing it, oh my God, it's never going to get better. If this is how it's going to feel every time I sit down to try this, I am gone. I'm out of there. I'm running. That just feels too uncomfortable. So just to coach myself, to give myself that nurturance to say, sweetie, I know it's hard right now, but just trust me. After you have done this 50 times, it will feel differently.
Yeah.
And I don't want to tell myself that it'll feel better or it'll feel differently, because differently is the key. Because if I can keep myself open to what it might feel like, then I'm open to learning.
Yeah. And I think this is a great, like, message to anyone who starts a 100-day project, because that's what the 100-day project does. Is it, like, it's going to get you to that point of like, oh, now I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
So for some people it's, day 2.
Yep.
For some people it's day 30,
It's gonna be there somewhere.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that place where suddenly we're getting to, okay, now we've struck the place where we're going to work.
Yeah. But what I'll say is, having done it 3 times, we're on day 76, and this time around, I've had like little peaks of like, oh, I'm feeling this, but nothing like the first. The first time was brutal. Day 20, I was like, what did I get myself into?
Yes.
The second time I got to like day 30 and then day 40, and I was like, oh God, this feels like work. But this time, it's more, and maybe I've created a rule that's more gentle on myself. I have a lot more that I allow as songwriting activities. So I can participate in songwriting without having to write lyrics and music every time.
Right.
I can break it into many different phases. I'm on day 76 and I don't feel like burnout at all.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is really, really... All right, so...
And I feel like I can stop with this where it is right now.
Yeah.
And either try to pick it up tomorrow or start on something new tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there's less of this like, oh God, I have this, it's not done, like I don't really know if this makes sense, I need to like keep pounding until I have this, and 4 hours later I still haven't made any progress, and I just wasted 4 hours and I'm like, pissed at myself.
Right.
Sorry,
all right, so let me ask let me ask that question then. So how would you coach Rigel at day 30 from Rigel at day 79 from the third time? What would you say to Rigel at day 30 that might help him of when day 30 of the first time?
I think I would ask Rigel what he's feeling in that moment. And, he was feeling discouraged, overwhelmed, empty.
Yeah. Bereft.
Maybe judged. Yeah.
Here come the judge.
Then I would ask.
Flip Wilson reference for all you young people.
Then I would say, so what does that lead to? And that, like, what sort of action does that lead to? And for me, maybe avoiding those feelings with eating.
Yep.
Netflix, distracting myself with whatever I possibly can.
You're singing my song. That is my perpetual chorus.
Yeah. And then the result is I quit and just get discouraged and maybe like give up on songwriting. So then I would kind of lay out that. Then I would ask, what is the thought behind those feelings? And the thought is, this is so hard. And I would say, what if we changed that thought to something else? What would that thought be? And Rigel would say, in the ideal world, I would say, this is so familiar. This is so familiar.
So how did you do it though? What happened to get you from day 30 to day 31 instead of you taking the exit ramp off and saying, nah, too hard, I'm gonna go to my trailer park and...
Yeah. Well, I think I was on the access road. After day 30, I was on the access road.
You'd already gotten off the... But that's the magical thing of what it was to get back.
Yeah, but here's the thing about the access road, and this is a Texas thing. Like, West Coast they don't have access roads. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, the West Coast, that was the first thing I noticed in Texas was like, you have a giant highway, and then you have like a highway on the side of that.
It's a highway's highway.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, but one of the things about the access road is, I think that's the power of community, is like, I can still observe, I can still watch, I can still feel part of this, and feel like I'm doing it, even though maybe I'm not. I'm not on the highway, but I'm like,
You're
I'm on the access road.
That's right.
And the intention is going in the same direction.
And there are entrance ramps that keep coming by. They keep coming by that are saying, hey.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's the community. Like I've tried this stuff, this kind of thing by myself before, and like it doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work.
The power of community. And so that's what you're building in building your practice. When you're talking about your welcome to the music studio and building your because I see it as so metaphorical.
Yeah.
I mean, so much of what me as a non-musician, I may never sit down in front of the piano and
we'll see. We may get you up here. We may get you up here next time.
Fortunately. See how you've taught me?
I know.
So whether I do or not, I am learning so much about the creative process, because every single thing that you talk about is absolutely transferable to my writing, to my speaking, to my engagement in my business. It's completely applicable and transferable into those skills. That's what I love about what you're doing. And so I can see anyone who is looking to break anyone who is looking to access their creative space and their creative spirit would benefit from getting an opportunity to be able to collaborate with you and to take you through it, because it has broken me free of so much. That's why I keep hungry and wanting to come back into the studio with Rigel and Dennis, is because of this extraordinary uplifting connection to the creative, to that infinite place, that well of creativity that I get a chance to do just from being around you as you are participating in your creative present.
Yeah. Well, that's really nice to hear that it's having that effect on you.
Totally.
Because I'm hoping that it will have that effect on any person who steps inside this place.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what I'm doing now, is offering people a first free session. Refinement is not just a lesson, but a session, because it could be a recording. You know, one thing that I wasn't expecting, that has been this really cool, like, whoa, things are just falling into place. Is like more people are contacting me about recording. And I compared myself, my little setup, to like a real studio. And I forget there's all these people, there's so many musicians in Austin, and then there's lots of those musicians who don't have like the technical ability and a nice microphone.
Yeah.
And that's just like too much for them. And I don't have to charge an arm and a leg, because I'm not paying for this studio. I can just be a little more reasonable for now, until I'm just so booked that I'm just bursting at the seams. But I want to have that problem.
Yeah.
I want to have that problem. So I'm doing a first session, and they sit down in the dragonfly chair. Dragonflies are apparently, their archetypal meaning is kind of this really interesting creature of change.
Yes.
Where they can move, they can hover.
Yes.
But they also glide, which I think they're the only creature that both hovers and glides.
Wow.
And that is our timer. But that's, I think, what the creative process is like hovering and gliding.
Hovering and gliding.
Yeah.
Boy, that puts a completely different spin on that, because there is a volitional, I mean, they're not hovering and gliding as part of it, but there is attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, that's wonderful. That is truly, truly amazing. Well, it was wonderful to be back in the studio with you, Rigel. What shall you play us out with?
we'll just do the chorus.
Why don't we do that?